the coverage.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Brandon Boatman. I'm a caregiver from the town of Frankfort. Thanks for having me back up here. I like what he said. You know, last year on May 5th, I moved 2,000 miles to become a caregiver up here in the state of Maine. And I researched all the other states, and honestly, that's the only state where we have a chance to make this a job and do it legally, you know, and not get arrested for doing things. I agree with 1258 as far as about everything. I already pay sales taxes. You know, it's not a big deal. I'm a business. You know, if I don't pay my taxes, I got no right to complain about how they're being spent. But you know, something that I mean, I'm also a libertarian, I suppose. So I guess I would be in favor of absolutely no regulations or inspections. I know that's probably not going to happen, but just at least. 24 hours notice. The thing about the lights is mentioned, but we grow out of our homes. We might not be home. Some of us have regular jobs. We might be at work. I just don't want a lot of wasted trips. And we're paranoid. I had Jehovah's Witnesses come to my house and knock on my door. I don't know these strangers. With what I'm doing, I get scared when I don't know people are coming to my house, and I just don't want anybody put in a bad situation because of that. So I support the 24 hours inspections. 1258 sounds like a pretty reasonable compromise. I can't find a logical reason to argue against it, honestly. But I mean, 726 seems to be like a dream bill for the dispensaries almost. I think it's funny that they argue that they want equality in capitalism or something for an entity that can sell to an unlimited amount of patients. And I'm only allowed to have 5 customers, of which I only have 2 right now. But why give me regulations that somebody who makes way more money than me, and I don't get to sell to more than 5 people basically. I support LD5, of course. Like I said, more patients, more customers, more tax money, more money for me to spend. I can improve my house. I can buy things, more equipment for growing. And 726 also has some best practice rules that I've read. And I mean, I just don't want to see this like a lot of states have done and overregulate. And it's a miracle that a natural plant is even able to help people without being altered. It just grows out of the ground and we can take it, and people can grow it for free for themselves. There's no reason to get overregulated. It's pretty simple, really. I'll be left, come to my house. Make sure I'm not growing more than, my 12 plants for my patients and 6 for myself. But give me notice. It's just the courteous thing because we are at our houses. We don't have a 9-to-5 business where, we're here and we're expecting visitors. But really, and another thing with. It disappoints me that I see in 726 addressing want to be able to sell more cannabis to the dispensaries. But what I don't see anywhere people talking about any of these bills is what about caregiver to caregiver sales? If I run out of medicine due to a crop failure, any number of reasons, I'm not legally allowed to purchase medicine from another caregiver to provide my patients. And if I can't do that, then I'd have the potential of losing my patients and losing my legal ability to grow those 6 plants apiece for them. And I think that you're talking about wholesale prices to a dispensary versus retail prices. If I was to sell it to customers, the patients themselves coming directly to me. I mean, I make a lot more money selling on the retail level than I do wholesale. And so I just don't think that 726 has anything to do with safety. I just think it has to do with trying to stop us from, making something of ourselves. That's all I'm here to do. I appreciate the opportunity to grow marijuana legally. But thank you guys.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions? Why don't you put the sign-up sheets down here on the, and maybe the next person can.
All right.
you can watch and
I was
sign
hoping
up.
we get to that at some point today where we weren't trying to sign everything while we're nervously standing up here. I'm a lot less nervous now, though. This is my third time
Well,
before
you
you.
know, by the end of the day, after
I'm going to be up here telling
12
jokes later.
times,
So. So I'll introduce myself again. I'm Daryl Goodrow, board member of MMCM, and I actually am in favor of two bills here. Also wanted to speak against one of them, so I don't know how you deal with our timing on that.
I'm going to let you use your 4 minutes, however.
Okay, perfectly. And so we are on, I'll start out with 766, which I'm definitely opposed to, and that's the obtaining electrical permit. If a person wants to start out as a caregiver and only have one patient in a residential location, and they only want to grow that one patient, one plant, I'm not really understanding why it is they would have to have an electrical inspector come in. So I might have some amount of agreement if there was a number of patients you were willing to be a caregiver for, and then applying some type of permit on the electrical side, but everything else doesn't need a permit, and I'm not sure why we would ask for that. In terms of LD 5, I'm very much in favor of removing the limit on the number of patients that we can have. I live in Lincoln County, Booth Bay Harbor in Lincoln County. It's the oldest county per capita in the state, but also in the country. I have doctors that are recommending patients get in touch with me because they understand that, first of all, not everybody's willing to admit that they're a caregiver or that they want to be a caregiver or that they have an understanding about the entire process. Most of the patients that come to me, I can't take care of. I can only be an uncompensated consultant for them. Brian specifically works for children, and so they aren't going to be consuming all of the marijuana unless they're taking some full extracted oil. And so we are limited by these 5 patients for who we can actually help, other than the time that we go out spending speaking to them, giving them all the information that they need so that I can hand them over to another qualified caregiver. I've done this for at least 20 patients in the last year. I've had doctors call me while the patient was sitting live in front of them and said, "This person needs your help today, tonight. Could you please come speak with them and give them all the information?" I can't accept them as a patient. I can't give them any medicine. All I can do is go and give them the information I have and then try to pass them along to somebody else who doesn't have a waiting list, and the waiting list is the problem. So I'm very much in favor of having I would rather have no limits on plants, but I understand we're not going to ever get there. I would prefer to be limited by the number of plants than the number of patients. And that would allow me to be able to help many more people who might only want a solve and a tincture. If all you're going to look for is a solve and a tincture in a month's time, you're never going to consume anywhere near those 6 plants worth of cannabis. It's important to me to be able to help many more people and do it at no profit at all than to have just 5 patients that I'm going to find, okay, I only want the patients that consume, smoke, eat the most amount, and now I have some money, but I don't have a bunch of healthy people that I was trying to help. And then, just lastly, 1258, I think with some amendments, MMCM is also in favor of that as well. That's it today, or for now.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Representative Gatine and members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. We live in a country where I don't take that for granted.
Thank you.
And I want to speak from a patient perspective. My husband works for corporate America.
And I need you to introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I will. I'll get to that. I am Melody Guest Pickett, and I'm a 62-year-old mother of 3 and a grandmother living in North Yarmouth. My husband has reached stage 4 with his prostate cancer. He is currently a patient of Dr. Roger Inhorn, head of oncology at Mercy Hospital in Portland, as well as Dr. Sulak and Dr. Eng at Integrate 8 in Falmouth. Those 3 doctors are overseeing my husband's care with a new treatment program showing much promise in labs across the globe. Although there are some things we don't know yet about ideal dosages and balancing the different strains of this medicine, under the guidance of our 3 doctors, we hope to pave the way with new knowledge for other patients. Western medicine has no cure for metastasized prostate cancer, and yet we have much hope. I say that to you sincerely. We have much hope for a cure. The medical treatment I'm speaking about, of course, is cannabis oil, and the cannabis preparations have been used as therapeutic agents against various diseases for thousands of years. We know, for example, from archaeological evidence that the Kush strains of cannabis originating in the Middle East were used in healing oils. Our research has led us to many modern-day patients who have cured their cancer with cannabis oil. Perhaps most notably for us is a man named Dennis Hill, an MD Anderson biochemist who cured his own late-stage prostate cancer. As a biochemist, Dennis Hill explains exactly how the cannabis receptors in your body are in place and perfectly suited to receive a medicine that nature clearly intended. The often derided THC is only one of 62 different cannabinoids in this medicinal plant. Our doctors have prescribed a medicine with higher concentrations of a cannabinoid called CBD, which is the non-psychotropic cannabinoid, as many of you know, coveted across the country by the parents of epileptic children. We are very fortunate to have found a medicine man, or caregiver as they are called, who has grown a phenomenally high-quality CBD strain of medicine right here in Maine. I mean, it is a nationally competitive level. And my doctors at Integrate 8 were so excited to read the lab results on his medicine a few weeks ago because they have, it's been very difficult for them to be able to refer us to people who have this strain. It's been hard for patients to find, and that is the truth. So I encourage you all to watch the Dr. Sanjay Gupta documentary, We Too. He is the CNN correspondent who's publicly apologized for his initial stance against this drug. And I'm hoping that most of you already know that it should never have been classified as a Schedule I drug like heroin. It is not toxic, and no one has ever died from an overdose. It does not affect the respiratory centers of the brain like heroin and cocaine. But the misinformation and hype about this drug will change over time. My husband, he doesn't have much time. So Dr. Inhorn says we will be looking for bone metastases soon. I'm asking you to do everything you can to support LD35, LD5, and 1258 in terms of business practices. When cancer patients like ourselves arrive on a caregiver's doorstep, we require much larger dosages of the medicine. Each plant grown has to be labeled as if you could possibly predict months prior that we were coming. As our doctors run tests and change the dosage and formula, how can our caregiver predict what he should have started growing for us months prior to our doctor's current formulation? Last week, my wonderful caregiver had to choose between giving his much-coveted CBD medicine to a 6-year-old child who is his epileptic patient versus my husband, his cancer patient. Of course, we told him he must give the medicine to the child. Now that my doctors know about the quality of my medicine, they're going to refer more patients to my caregiver, who will not be able to help them because state laws have limited the number of his patients and plants, and because he was robbed last night and broken into. He doesn't even know the $1,000 a month he pays for insurance will cover his plants. So LD5 would be especially hugely helpful going forward with these issues, as desperate mothers of epileptic patients and folks like us have evolving needs which are competing for a critical medical shortage. I want to add, I know I'm out of time, but I have a caregiver in Massachusetts that I can go to if he no longer has medicine. And he was recommended by a chief scientific officer at a lab that's very respected on the East Coast. This man has cured pancreatic cancer and others. And I hope you won't back us into a corner. I'm going to do the right thing for my husband, and I know that mothers are going to do the right thing for their children. So, thank you for your testimony this morning.
Thank you for your testimony. Best wishes to you and your husband.
I'm sure I'm going to be back here to testify about cures for medical marijuana. I sincerely mean that.
Any questions? Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee members. Oh, 9 o'clock.
Okay,
All right.
give a little warm up.
Oh, thanks. My name is Matt Bayless. I'm a resident in South Portland. I'm 39 years old. I'm here to speak in support of LD5 and parts of 1258. I've been using medicinal cannabis for over 20 years. I started getting debilitating migraines when I was in junior high. A lot of people still scoff at migraines, but I'll just tell you, when you can't see and you start puking your brains out to the point where all the blood vessels in your face pop, and then you're in bed for 1 to 3 days, hot and cold sweats, wishing for it to end. You know, I'm sure there's elements that if they could bottle this and use it as torture to get interrogation, they would. So this is what I endured from ages 12 to 16, until finally a doctor told me to use cannabis, just simply to subdue the nausea so I could keep Excedrin migraine down. And this took what was 10 on the Richter scale down to a 3. Now, this is still in the 90s, illegal. And what was available then was basically Mexican cartel weed, brick, treated with God knows what, no love, no compassion in it. And it was garbage for the most part. And if it didn't help me, it would make the headache worse. Going into my later teens, started to find Sensimilia and underground growers, and that started bringing things even better. The nausea, I knew if I could get high quality Sensimilia, grown with love and compassion, that it would subdue my nausea and I could keep the Excedrin migraine out. Where I'm at these days with concentrates, the last time I treated a migraine, it cured it. It stopped it dead in its tracks. When I got the auras, I took one hit of concentrate, and within 5 minutes, the auras went away. This is the first time in over 20 years this has ever happened. So tell me that isn't a miracle. There's nothing that any doctor could do until 6 months ago when I finally got the high potency concentrate and could get to it in time to stop the whole thing dead in its tracks. I've been growing for over 5 years. I was a resident in Sonoma, California before I moved here. I moved here 3 years ago because my mother had her second case of breast cancer, and I'm an only child, and she was on her own up here, so I moved here. What I found available to her from dispensaries and other caregivers, I did not find satisfactory. I'd say that it was not properly flushed, it was not grown with love or compassion. I don't know what was going on with the genetics, but it was not to my level. I have now been growing for myself and my mother for several years. As an outside observer, first moving into the state, I honestly felt that you guys handcuffed the caregiver. It's just completely unfair. How can someone run a business, pay rent, pay electricity, buy the nutrients, replenish their lights, do everything they never need to do? Environmental controls, unbelievably expensive, especially in the summertime here. You've got humidity and heat. You're talking about ducted dehumidifiers, AC, all this stuff. You're handcuffing not only the caregivers, but then